Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mormon Wives Season 2. If you're new to my content, my name is Brittany Simon, and we do philosophy through pop culture. These are real people. Let's just remember that. But they are content creators with a TV show. I'm a content creator without a TV show. So I'm reviewing them as a way to understand our lives better. So I know they're real people, and I hope they always get the help that they need. So any criticism I have towards them is never really towards the real person that they are, because I don't know them, but instead sort of like the way they appear on the show. So maybe even you could say I'm critiquing the character that the edit allows to show up while still acknowledging that they're real people. So with that said, let's be open-minded and compassionate when reviewing their lives, because even though it's like pretty messy and pretty toxic and unhealthy, it is a real person going through something. Okay, with that said, let's see what we can learn about our own lives by reviewing theirs.
I think Jen is fake.
Okay, well, this escalated quickly.
With the smiley, just so you know.
Also, it's nice having this confession come out. This definitely caught me off guard because this isn't supposed to be malicious at all.
Okay, so the girls are at the book announcement for Macy. I don't know how she thought it wouldn't turn sour. It is what it is, group dynamics and all that. I am disappointed in whoever wrote that. I don't know why I'm so emotional.
That's a lot.
Jen just said, I don't know why I'm so emotional, because it's cruel. How unnecessary was that?
Give yourself some grace.
I don't know who wrote the card. If it wasn't Demi or Jesse because they have this weird beef, then I would say they brainwashed someone else to feel the same way about Jen.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, Demi did say, you know, give yourself grace, which I thought was pretty kind. And if it wasn't Jesse, could it have been Michaela? Michaela, maybe, but that seems so weird. I mean, it could have been Whitney, but I don't think so either. I don't know. Either way, disappointing. The audio is kind of low, but Jen is saying, I feel like everybody hates me. And this is Whitney and Miranda comforting her, which is good. And I say this as somebody who's been pretty critical of Jen the last few episodes. Jen's still a person. And again, it doesn't matter how bad of a person Jen is. That doesn't mean you get to be a bad person. You see, when I say this on stream, I say just because they go low, that doesn't mean you do. And whoever wrote that, I think is going very low.
I just wanted to get to the bottom of why are these women doing this to me?
Interesting. Why are these women doing this to me? That's the problem with Jen, is she makes herself the victim every time, and it makes everyone doubt her, because how can you possibly be the victim every time? I think the problem with accountability, my therapist really explained this to me, is you have to be able to hold yourself accountable without it being about other people and what they do. And that's why I say you have to be kind and good, even if the world isn't, because it's not about what the world does. A lot of people think, well, if you're going to do this, then I'm going to do it too. You're going to lie and slander me. I'm going to lie and slander you. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's a good idea, because then you don't really have values against lying and slandering. You just have values against lying and slandering until somebody else does it. And that's not really a value, is it? So I think Jen has this thing where I'm not sure what her beliefs are, what her goals are, what is she doing, where are her values? And I know she's going through it, but I can't help but feel like this edit is making her sound like somebody who's lacking in so much self-awareness, it's hurting everybody around her. And if she's the common denominator between all of the pain, then the problem is sort of maybe the responsibility rather than the problem is Jen, or the responsibility lies with her actions. And it feels like Jen could fix this pretty easily by having like a group intervention and just putting it all on the table. And then, like I said, somebody else in my chat said that maybe her people pleasing is playing a role in this. Yeah, maybe. Right? Maybe she's just so extreme a people pleaser that even if they had an intervention of some kind, she still wouldn't be able to like be honest.
Like, what are your intentions behind our friendship? And if you do have an issue with me, like, let's talk about it.
I think it's weird for Jen to have this attitude of like, if you have a problem with me, let's talk about it. But when she's confronted, she doesn't talk about it. She's not able to actually have a real conversation that's honest. So it's kind of interesting that what I'm interested in is, what is she thinking? Like, what is her rationale for her actions?
I'm having a baby shower after baby's born because we didn't know the gender yet.
You know, somebody on chat asked me, what's the difference between somebody who makes their life content and someone who doesn't? This is a good example of people who make their life content in a very personal way. Baby showers, blessings, family events, family members. You know, like, I'm a content creator, but my life isn't content, though I talk a lot about my life, right? But with this is like, you're showing us the going to the store and setting up for the baby shower. And that's basically most of reality TV. Reality TV is get a look inside of my reality, but yet my reality is there's still a camera in the room. I just refuse to believe that it's as honest and vulnerable as it needs to be as long as there's a camera. And that includes the Michaela episode with therapy. Like, why is your therapy being recorded? At the end of the day, as much as it's nice for people to see it, I think it doesn't allow you, the patient, or you, the client, to really have a sacred space, a private space to share your feelings with your therapist, right? So I refuse to believe this is healthy.
Invited everyone from Mom Talk because I'm definitely still making efforts to feel like I've been accepted back into this group.
I need some friends.
So Jen, Miranda, Whitney, that's the new throuple.
Let's make the chat. I'm gonna make it right now. Okay, so I said, I thought it'd be fun to do something for Macy at the pickleball tournament.
Whitney just sent a text.
Hell no.
I feel like she definitely like hit her head.
Whew, okay, wow. Some of the girls were being interviewed by the producers at the time that Whitney sent out the text. So they kind of got it on the camera, but they're rejecting her and being mean girls about it. So they're not going to do it. Like, I wish they would just say, you can't come back versus this weird limbo. Like, they're making her work really hard to get back in the group, but they're also doing nothing to meet her halfway instead of just saying, like, there's nothing you can do. You can't come back in. I don't know why we're playing these games.
We're not going on dates. We're not seeing each other that often besides when he visits his son.
So are you guys having sex? Because that's going to confuse him.
Yes, but it doesn't change anything.
Listen to me. I have been a messy girly in her 20s. I've done on again, off again. Trust me, having sex with an on again, off again, that's a situationship. You don't want a situationship, okay? From one old Brittany to youngins, like, don't do this, okay? So for Taylor Dakota to quote be working on things, not together, but still being physically intimate, and I swear to God, if she gets pregnant again, do you know what I mean? Like, Jen just got pregnant when her and Zach are looking at a divorce, and Dakota and Taylor are still sleeping together. Like, there's absolutely zero wisdom, just zero wisdom.
And it's just hard to completely cut that off.
It is hard. It is like a very difficult thing to do because you're still enmeshed in hoping that you will be together. You have to have the discipline not to do it, and then you have to not do it for the right reasons, because you're right, like, you already have a baby together, you're in love, you've been together, why shouldn't you have sex with him? Because it's not healthy. But it's certainly not evil, it's just very human. Does that kind of make sense? It's evil in a philosophical sense, like she's moving away from her joy into like a mess, but it's not evil in the moral sense. Like, I don't think she's a bad person, I think that they're messy. And I think it's not the best decision. And I also think it's incredibly irresponsible for Dakota to put Taylor in this situation, which I would argue maybe Dakota's a bad person. Because if Dakota knows he already manipulated her, lied to her, cheated on her, and then now he's playing with her feelings even more. Like, it's interesting that the mom and the sister are playing it like Taylor's responsible and she's the bad person. But really, Dakota is taking advantage of the situation. He's probably using sex, and maybe I don't know how malicious he's being, but he's probably utilizing sex even subconsciously to get to Taylor. Because listen, as somebody who's been in love and toxic relationships, the sex always made it feel like maybe it can work because you feel so in the moment, and then you fight again, and then you have makeup sex, and then you fight again, and then you have makeup sex. And the sex always made it feel like maybe we can make this work because you just feel so in the moment with that person. But when you're fighting, you're pulled out and you're like, why am I doing this with my life? And then you're having sex again. And then it's like, oh, maybe we can make it work. But it's not like, oh, the sex is so good, I can make it work. It's like intimacy feels so real, even though it's actually like toxic. And though it's kind of real, it's kind of not healthy. So it's not kind of real. You know, it confuses you. And then you get out of a toxic cycle and you actually get into a healthy relationship and you realize like, oh, like, I wasn't even having good sex in the way that I thought I was having, because toxic sex hasn't, in my lived experience, been as good as healthy sex. But toxic sex at the time, because I didn't have anything to compare it to, felt so much more, quote, real than I thought making love could feel. I don't know how else to say it, but you know what I mean?
Being intimate with him, I feel nothing. I literally turn it off. Like
100%. When I was having makeup sex, it was like I didn't feel anything, which is why it felt good, because my brain was turned off and it was just passion. Relatable.
I don't know how I do it. Like, he calls me the dude in the relationship because after he's like, can we cuddle? And I'm like, no.
Yep. This was absolutely me. Yeah, this was me in my 20s, and I needed therapy and I needed some philosophical work. So when I went to therapy, it didn't quite hit me what my therapist was telling me. And I remember asking my therapist, like, should I break up with my boyfriend? And she was like, well, I'm not really going to tell you if you should break up with him, but let's talk about what that looks like. And what she gave me was a tool I never had before. Instead of living for people's potential, the person he could be one day, I would just say, like, are you this person today? And if you're not, then you're not my person. Because we are already, nearing 30. We are already old enough. We already should have known better. We already, this was it. Either I was going to stay a toxic person or I was going to get better. My married partner, the person I married, I really liked who they were, like the moment I met them, like the person that they are, and I never required them to change. And this was the first relationship I've been in where I didn't have to live for someone's potential. Taylor and Dakota, there's like a desire to change first so we can be together. And that's the dilemma. But this is very relatable for my toxic years. This was a lot of my lived experience too.
I don't want to cuddle. Like, if anything, you can leave.
Yep.
I like almost turn it off, like I'm protecting myself.
Yep.
Because I know if I do feel it will hurt really bad.
And you'll have to face yourself and realize what you're doing and realize like this isn't healthy. And then you'll have to realize that you really have to let him go, that no version of him that is right for you will exist. And that's painful. Looking at somebody you love and realizing they're never going to actually be healthy is a devastating experience. It actually is so sad. And I can feel for her in this moment.
My sister does have a point. This is doing nothing progressive for me. And I feel like I have to cut that off or you're just gonna continue the unhealthy cycle.
Yes. Yes. I don't like the way her family's coming at her, but I do agree. And her sister was like, you need Jesus. You don't need Jesus. You need a good therapist. But yes, I agree. And I'm glad she came to that conclusion because I don't think she has malicious intent. And since Dakota was dishonest, he is more responsible for malicious intent. But I don't think Taylor has malicious intent. I think Taylor is wounded and traumatized, but she needs to take accountability for the way she continues to engage in toxicity and keeps hoping it will be different. It won't be different. So you got to end the cycle by not continuing it. Breaking a generational curse, ending a traumatic cycle is very, 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 very difficult, guys. So again, lots of empathy towards Taylor because it's hard. But reminder that in this particular relationship, we know Taylor wasn't so great in her last one, but in this particular relationship, like Taylor is the victim, but they are both individually victims of their own toxic cycles that they are responsible for breaking, regardless if it's probably generational. Right? So given the dynamic between her parents and listening to her mother talk, her mom's got a lot of problems too, which is not uncommon. We all come from dysfunction. The question is, what level of dysfunction are we coming from? And actually, I usually do this on my stream and I never really do this on Mormon wives, but actually let's do it. So, oops, hold on, let me make a better line here. So here's the line. So we talk a lot about this on stream about the trauma line. So healthy versus unhealthy. So this is unhealthy. Okay, this is healthy. Okay, very bad English, but there you go. Okay, so people who start off here, they're like at the worst spot. People who are here, they're like at the best spot. Okay, and until you cross over this line, okay, you're either unhealthy or healthy, but even when you're healthy, you're like baby healthy. And even if you're really unhealthy, you're like extremely unhealthy to like basically unhealthy. And Taylor feels like she started off like maybe here or something. And she's like here. Okay, she's like maybe here. My hope is that she gets here. And then of course, I hope she hops over to here and becomes baby healthy. And baby healthy for me was like life-changing. Life-changing. When I got to baby healthy, okay, when I got to baby healthy, I blocked my ex and never talked to him again, moved everybody out of my life who at the time like wasn't helping, reinforced really strong relationships with really good people, made sure to bond and get closer to the people that I love the most, and revamped my whole idea about values and how I'm showing up in the world, and eventually became a full-time content creator, got my life on track, found my meaning and purpose, boom. Like things changed. Prior to this step, I couldn't maintain a job, burnt out every 2 years. Couldn't maintain civility with people in my life because of our differing political views, which by the way was fair because my parents are bigoted and they're homophobes and transphobes. And so to be fair, it was driving me crazy realizing my parents were so conservative when I was so progressive, and also seeing their humanity made me also feel like I was in turmoil, which Taylor probably relates to. It is very hard to see the good in people who vote for such bad people, who continue to support the administration, who aren't able to separate themselves from their religion to such an extent that it impacts their children's lives. Like, I know this as a formerly Catholic kid. This is so much harder than people think it is because we see the goodness in our parents. But prior to therapy and getting healthier, I had expectations, like living for my parents' potential, thinking one day they won't be homophobes. But I don't do that anymore. I don't expect my parents to change, but I have a very open with boundaries relationship with them because of it. And note, it is okay to stop talking to your parents if you feel like they're too bigoted and you don't have a relationship with them. That's just not a decision I've made, but I do talk to them less and less as time goes on because of those differences, but I still love them. I know they love me. It just is what it is. We're a blip in history, and this is my historical family tree, right? Most of the people in my family are religious, right? So it is what it is. But if Taylor could just get over this hump, it would be great. I think most of the girls, honestly, are like all somewhere within this range, right? It just depends. And I can't think of one girl that's over here. I can't think of one girl that's in the healthy category. And it is what it is, you know? And I think there could be. I think there could be. I think eventually the girls could be, but right now it's just not in it. And the boys too. Like none of the boys come off healthier. But I genuinely feel like that's mostly the edit. But ultimately, these boys are married to these girls, and this is their life, and this is the way they make money, and this is the way they show up, and this is the way they interact with one another. And I just can't imagine that anyone's healthy. And healthy and unhealthy are very subjective ideas and bubbles. So let me know what you think about it. But I think healthy is stuff like not writing down Jen is so fake. Like that can't be healthy. Like in what way is hiding in a group activity Jen is so fake? Like how is that healthy? I don't get it. Right? But again, having one part of you that's unhealthy doesn't mean you're completely unhealthy. As an example, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but in this season, Layla is looking rather frail. And it's because she's actually fighting an eating disorder. Just because she has an eating disorder doesn't make her unhealthy, even though that is a form of being unhealthy. I wouldn't say that because you have BPD, you're unhealthy, or because you're autistic, you're unhealthy, or because you have an eating disorder, or because you have a disability. Like, that's not how I think about it. I think about it more in relation to how you treat people and your relationship with self. But I think you can be a healthy person who's battling an eating disorder, or a healthy person who's battling disability, or a healthy person who's battling, you know, I don't know, however you want to word it, right? Everyone words it differently. So I think it's about your values. You know, people often say all people with borderline are horrible monsters. And I just want to remind you, like, borderline doesn't make you a bad person. Your values do. And sometimes it's really hard to have good values when you're fighting your own mental health. Your mental health is in decline because you don't know what's good or bad. Like Taylor is fighting herself. She doesn't know how to show up in the world and be a good person right now because this is the best she can provide, because she's having this like very biological experience that's difficult to like actually invoke like a sense of free will. You know, she doesn't feel like she has that much free will with like falling in love with Dakota or not falling in love with Dakota, because she doesn't really, like, we don't really choose who we fall in love with. We just choose who to be with. And I think this is very hard for people to process, because they want to say, well, you're 100%, you know what you're doing. You're 100% are making a choice. But making a choice takes a lot of discernment, a lot of wisdom, a lot of healthiness. And right now, I just don't think the girls have those options. But let's hope that they get there by the end of the season.
She's making all of these hurtful videos, making fun of my traumas.
What did that say? I'm going to go back. And a reminder that if things ever get hard, you can always just leave the group chat. Okay, that's in reference to Whitney's group chat. And then this one says, I haven't been getting enough attention from my friends lately, so I thought I would try setting boundaries and move away too. I don't get that one. I guess because Whitney moved to Hawaii.
It's about me or about our relationship.
They're making like when people expect the same version of us after playing us. Yeah, they're making like petty passive aggressive things. I don't like passive aggressive either. I think passive aggressive is a sign of unhealthiness. Let me bring back my paint. Okay, there's like this idea that once you're healthy, you're always good, you're never toxic. That's not true. Reality is like when you're healthy, you have moments of toxicity, and you're supposed to recognize it, acknowledge you're a human, and regulate. But, you know, abuse and other things, that's a different category. That's just unhealthy. But before you're abusive, you're toxic, right? Toxicity is the first step towards abusiveness. So you can have a perfectly healthy person who's like going through life, but they get triggered, so they do something toxic, and then they come back down. They're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, and then holds themselves accountable in some way. But then what happens is that, you know, Whitney was very toxic and the girls were really upset. But instead of regulating and being kind and compassionate, the girls are like, we're going to fight toxic with toxic. And I get it. Like, I get the desire to fight toxic with toxic, but now you're just toxic. And as a content creator, I really struggle with this when there's like drama on the internet or issues with people. It's like I want to defend myself, but I don't want to be toxic. But the fact that I'm engaging with this group of people also makes me one of them. But also, how do I pull away from this group of people without standing up for myself and still not be a part of it? And I think there's almost no way to do it. There's almost like no way to be in group activities that are like political or about people's trauma or mental health or positions or very like contentious issues without it just being a problem. But then the question is like, do we stay away from it just because it's hard? Like, hopefully not. I mean, I think you find this in any group activity. regardless regardless if it's like your family and friends and like long history between aunties and uncles, or if it's content creators or politicians or anything else. Group activities are hard. That's why the world suffers. But that doesn't mean we should shelter ourselves and be hermits. It means we should aim to be healthier.
Genuinely feel like I need to have a conversation just one-on-one with Michaela before we even go on this girls trip.
Okay, well, maybe I'll talk to her and see like what she thinks and see if she's open.
I'm not fully understanding why you still have such harsh feelings towards me. And even more than that, Mom Talk is driven by love and unity, and that's clearly not what Michaela's doing. She's doing the exact opposite.
Basically, Macy and Whitney discussed it. Macy's going to reach out to Michaela and see if she's willing to talk to Whitney. But Macy's basically kind of playing like, oh, I didn't know she was going to do this. But then Whitney made a great point and said, well, if you already saw the first TikTok, why would you be a part of the second? And hey, that's a great question. I think a better question is, are we really friends, or are we just like content creator friends? And if we're just content creator friends, is there a way for us to be professional without being real friends? But then does our business go away if we're not real friends? Because do people watch us because they feel like we're real friends? And that's not to say that real friends don't have fights or break up, right? Because there's always a conversation about like, were we ever really friends if we fought? Sometimes, but not always. Sometimes like I'm in contact with people. I'm like, we're not really like friends like that. But sometimes your real friends will really betray you. And so you're like, oh, damn. And that's what it is, right? Like sometimes that happens. But I think the context of this needs to be discussed. Are we friends that are, making an effort? Because if we are, we should be having these conversations off camera. Or are we friends because it's good content?
Macy's dinner, she was like, remember Friday? Like kind of delusional, like there's gonna be money.
So they're being mean and they're talking about how Whitney's delusional. We're not gonna go to her baby shower. Well, then tell her. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this has to do with children now. And that's why I feel so weird that Whitney's even involving her children on the television. Like, we're watching people's kids too. Like, don't forget that I'm noticing there are children on these videos. I think that's so messy. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I almost respected Jen and Zach in the first season for not having the girls at the baby shower, except for a few of them. But also, I don't really value anyone having their families on video. But then that's me. Like, that's my relationship with content creation, is like my family, my partner, they're not online. I'm online. It's my job. Maybe your baby shower shouldn't come to work with you.
She knows that probably half the group isn't going to come. I think we want to host like a hibachi dinner that night.
But we saw how Park City and Vegas went, and I'm just like, please, can we just have like a calm?
No, girls, they're sitting here talking about we should have a hibachi night on the night of Whitney's baptism and set or whatever it is. And then they're like, oh my God, the girls trip. I'm so anxious, but can it just be a girl? Like, I just want it to be relaxed. I want it to be a chill girls. How is it going to be chill if you have this attitude with Whitney now? Like, why can't people do the math? No, it's not going to be chill. It's going to be bad. Somebody literally wrote in a card, Jen is fake. You should have held that person accountable at that dinner that night. You should have said to Whitney, thank you for the invitation. I won't be able to attend. I'm so sorry, but I hope you have a good time with your family. But no, you won't. And you'll do this instead. And how dare Demi sit here and be like, I just hope we have a great night. I hope like the girls trip is so calm.
I am not on the best terms with Whitney still.
See, like that's the thing. If a person tries to reach out and mend things, you either let them know, hey, there's nothing you can actually do to come back into my life, but thank you and I wish you the best. Or you can string them along. Because right now, they're stringing Whitney along. They're being mean girls. Just tell Whitney, thank you so much for the attempt. I don't feel safe continuing this friendship and I wish you the best. But you're not doing that, are you?
Really? Zach called me.
What?
Yeah.
Did you tell him we gave Jen a heads up?
Yeah, I said I thought that by giving Jen a heads up, and I was like, I know you're not Jen, but I thought that you guys would be in communication enough.
This is an interesting couples dynamic thing. So the girls thought by telling Jen, Zach would know. But Jen didn't tell Zach. In my marriage, if you tell me, I'm going to tell my partner. Unless it's very something specific, unless you explicitly are like, hey, this is my personal information, my personal trauma, my personal whatever, please don't tell your partner. Then you have to give me a chance to consent to listening to it in the first place. Because I practice radical honesty in my marriage, but all of my friends and family go, yeah, I assume if I'm going to tell you, you're going to tell your partner. And I'm like, yeah, because like that's the dynamic that most couples have that I see that end up being very healthy, as long as I'm assuming is established as a healthy relationship, right? If you're telling a toxic partner everything your friends tell you, well, that's not good. But if you're telling a healthy partner and you're healthy, then that's just intimacy between a couple, right? So don't get it twisted. Don't tell your toxic boyfriends and girlfriends everything about your life, right? Tell your life partner, your healthy life partner, because then you're sharing, because, it's a part of my life too. So yeah, this idea that Jen didn't tell Zach feels dishonest to me, because in my marriage, it kind of would be it would be a huge, actually, no, not to exaggerate, it would be a huge form of betrayal if I allowed my partner to be publicly humiliated because I didn't inform them, because then it goes into informed consent. Let's actually talk about that, because we talked about this on stream, but let me pull it together for those of you who maybe don't watch my streams, but you watch my Mormon videos. Okay, there's 3 levels of consent that society is dealing with right now. There's no consent, which I bet a lot of these Mormon girls' mothers probably had to deal with, right? Because it's like an older concept. There's consent, which is like the modern day, you know, consent, which is like better than nothing, but it's not the same thing as informed consent. So consent is kind of what Jen did in a sense. Like, she got the consent, she gave the consent to the girls, but she didn't inform her partner, Zach, which means he didn't have the chance to actually consent because Jen didn't give him an opportunity to. No consent is this, you know, you can think of like old school marriages in which like the wives have to do what the husband say, they don't get a say, and they don't get to consent to sex in a marriage because marital rape isn't a thing. You know, that's kind of that attitude. But then consent is like, I'm a woman or I'm a man and I have a choice, but the choice needs to be informed. You need to inform your partners. And so Jen did not give Zach informed consent. And therefore, in my mind, he could not consent to the Chippendales situation. And therefore, it was a violation of consent. So if I did that to my partner, if I said, hey, come to this party with me and my friends, and I knew they were going to surprise us with something that I didn't tell my partner about, that means I wasn't giving my partner informed consent, which would be a violation of our marriage, which would mean we would have to consider ourselves like in an unhealthy dynamic at that point. Because in my marriage, healthiness is communication and consent and informed consent. To violate that sanctity, that contract, means we have now moved into unhealthy territory. Now, if it's a one-off, then that's just like an unhealthy moment and we can talk about it and fix and regain course. But if it's a pattern, which Jen seems to be showing, well, now it's an indication that something is deeply, deeply wrong, right? It wasn't just a miscommunication. It wasn't just a mistake. Now it's a pattern of behavior that's deliberate and consistent. And that's where Jen looks like she's coming from. She looks deliberate, consistent.
Like her lying about the Ben Affleck thing. Like, why would she make that up?
Okay, that's where for me, I'm like, this isn't a miscommunication. This isn't you hating confrontation. That is literally a pathological liar.
Okay, so that's the thing I'm having with the girls. I guess they're not friends. Jen, Affleck, Ben. What's confusing to me is I guess these people aren't lifelong friends. No, Jen and Zach Affleck stars The Secret Lives of the Mormon Wives are not directly related to Ben Affleck. Well, Jen Affleck initially claimed her husband and Zach was Ben's second cousin. Sources have refuted this, stating there's no actual relationship. Zach Affleck himself also clarified the connection was a family joke. So it says Business Insider found that Zach's genealogy primarily comes from Utah, while Ben's comes from the East Coast, suggesting no direct link. Embarrassing. Oh, so they really tried to play it off like they were related and they're not. That's so embarrassing. That's what I'm saying. Why are you doing that? There's so many red flags there. No wonder the girls are upset.
Last year when this all went down, I was like, no, I'm a girl's girl. Like, you do not deserve to be treated this way. I've been treated this way.
Yeah, they're talking about being a girl's girl and how they wanted to defend Jen because, you know, girl's girl. Being a girl's girl means you don't throw women under the bus to uphold the patriarchy or to give into misogyny. Being a girl's girl to Brittany doesn't mean we don't call out people that are girls. It means we don't allow girls to be thrown under the bus because we're giving into mean girl attitudes, which the women are engaging in, or they don't treat women cruelly because they're adhering to some patriarchal standard. Actually, what's disappointing is seeing girls be also mean girls. But actually, most of the people I know who identify as girls who are not queer or deconstructed are just mean girls. That's what I've noticed. I've just noticed people who don't actually engage in like the deconstruction queer bubbles that I'm in. Think Manifestel. Like Manifestel gives mean girls. That's why her audience, when I talk about Manifestel, comes into my comments and calls me a pick-me. Why are you calling me a pick-me? Because I'm pointing out like the unhealthy toxicity of it all, right? Like Sheer 7 and all those people, like with Peace and Love, super toxic, but their audience is the first one to be like, you're not a girl's girl, pick me, Misha, blah, blah, blah. Funny, love it. Love the word pick Misha, hilarious, but not really helpful when we're trying to be healthy.
And we just want to block out all the noise and be a united front.
Okay, so she said something really important there. She said, we want to be a united front. I think the only way to be united is to be in agreement with values. It's not about you against the world. It's not about you against others. It's you together, no matter what the world is doing. So in my partnership, I do feel like it's us together and no matter what the world is doing, we're focusing on the health and dignity of our own relationship. And I think that helps because I don't want to be like us against them. When I was in my 20s and I was in toxic relationships, I think it was more like us against the world. And that felt like really silly and romantic, but it was silly. It was just silly. It was like, why are we against the world? Why are we fighting against the world? I don't want to fight against anybody. I just want to be in love and I want to be healthy. I think sometimes when you're toxic and unhealthy because we're breaking generational curses because of the families we're raised in, we're in survival mode. And so then we're in attack mode. We're in defense mode. But when you're healthy and you're no longer in survival mode and you're no longer defensive and you're no longer all these things, as a default at least, well, then you realize you don't really care what other people are doing and you can live your life and be happy. So I think I'd like to see Jen and Zach get to that point.
Very ironic.
Shoot. So she says, Mom Talk screwed me over after I chose them over Zach, but I feel like she screwed herself over by not being honest.
The thing is, like, you have me, you have your kids. Do you even want to be part of Mom Talk?
I think being a part of Mom Talk is a huge responsibility for each of us. We're trying to influence the world.
Is that the Mormon in her, guys? Can you tell me? Even when I make content, I don't think I'm going to influence the world. I just think I'd like to show up in the world in a way that I think is healthier and better. And I'd like to be an example of that, but not as a way to like lead the world into. I think a lot of the content I make now is almost for unhealthy Brittany. It's for the people who are struggling so hard and like, is there something better than this? Yes, there is so much. Oh my God, there's so much goodness in the world and there's so much beauty, even though there's horrible things happening everywhere. But it starts with you regulating yourself because you're going to get swallowed by the world if you don't regulate. For them, I think because they're Mormon and they're trying to evangelize in a way, there is a little bit of an obligation to stay on Montauk and to be TikTokers and to be content creators.
What are you guys trying to influence? What are you trying to show women?
Empower women.
But you guys all just shit on each other.
Yo, we're trying to empower women and Zach goes, but y'all shit on each other. Exactly. This can't be good for us.
It's just hard because like I really, in this next chapter of our life, am like doing everything I can to support you. And then you go hang out with these girls and you come home and you cry pretty much every time. And you're just like, this is what this person said about me. I'm like, friends don't say that about each other. Like that's not a real thing, but it's like you're almost trapped because
there is a difference between holding your friends accountable and talking shit on your friends. And look, this is a big distinction to me that I think is important. I will always call my friends out. Even, when I'm there and when I'm ready, sometimes it's emotionally hard to realize your friend is this kind of person. I will always call my friends out. But your friend might internalize that as you're shitting on me. I'm not shitting on you. I'm calling out your bad behavior. But shitting on people is like making fun of Whitney for having a baptism or what it was, I don't remember, a christening, whatever it was, and shitting on her and then being fake to her. Like, stop shitting on your friend. Stop saying Jen is fake on a card. Like, that's shitting on your friend. That's not holding your friend accountable. Because accountability also has to result in you giving people a pathway to redemption. Accountability is that person saying, I did wrong and I will do better. Accountability is about redemption, hopefully. And so accountability with no redemption is just bullying, right? It's just trying to feel superior over somebody else. But these girls writing Jen is fake on a card, that's talking shit. That's so inappropriate, right? Calling somebody out on their bad behavior though, that's not talking shit.
Jesse and Demi are trying to get the whole group against me.
She's doing this thing where she's like, the Demi and Jesse are trying to get the girls against me. It doesn't allow for honesty. It doesn't allow for the reality where Jen created a scenario that confused Jesse and Demi. And even though I think, again, they're being mean girls about stuff, I also think what Jen did was inappropriate. And I feel like I'm repeating myself 100 times. This makes Jen still suspicious to me.
I'm just fed up at this point, and I want someone to finally hear me.
Interesting that the like, I don't want to say brand, but the marketing of this is, I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm not going to play victim. Yeah, it still feels dishonest, but let's see.
I need to confront these issues. And if not, it's actually worse for me.
See, does Zach believe her? That's my question. Or is Zach thinking like, this sounds like bullshit?
I just want to take accountability. I know I suck at confrontation and I know that can come off as two-faced, which I totally get that. But first off, I genuinely want to ask you, when have I intentionally ever tried to hurt you in our friendship?
Oh, okay, Jen. Weird question to ask. So Jen and Jesse are having this conversation, and Jen starts off with saying this, it's going to be a hard conversation, but then she asks like the weirdest question. When have I intentionally ever tried to hurt you in our relationship? What does that have to do with anything? I'm going to be so real with you. This feels so manipulative. Like, this feels like my red flags are like going off. That's such a manipulative question. When I have intentionally ever tried to hurt you in our relationship, what does that have to do with anything? We're not talking about you intentionally hurting anybody. We're talking about you lying. Does that not feel so manipulative?
What are you talking about?
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. What are you talking about?
You continue to like bash me in my relationship.
Because of the things I want to talk about, yes.
It makes me question your character.
I'm going to say this out loud, but you need to know we don't even care about gender here on this channel. But if Jen was a man saying this, I'd be like gaslighter. But because it's Jen, a part of my brain is like, is my own prejudice towards favoring AFAB people, is that allowing me and convincing me that like she's not just doing exactly that? This feels like gaslighting, but it isn't gaslighting. So gaslighting by definition is a deliberate, targeted attack in which you make the person that you're targeting doubt themselves so significantly that they question their own sanity, and it's deliberate. So the lack of deliberateness could change it from gaslighting to something else. But Jen is deliberately, in my opinion, asking a manipulative question that is meant to throw Jessie off and confuse her. And that is just displayed here in this conversation. But then I don't know. And I'm not a mental health professional. So from a philosophical lens, I would say Jen is coming into the conversation with a skewed perception of the situation. And on top of that, a lack of foundation for values that allows her to truly humanize everybody a part of the situation and paint herself as the primary victim. If she had a strong sense of values, she would probably approach this conversation with accountability being, I have done wrong. I've absolutely deceived you guys. Even if it was subconscious, it ended up being a lie that ruined dynamics between everybody and made you feel a way about my marriage that maybe was incorrect, and maybe made Zach feel a way about you guys that was incorrect. And I'm sorry. That's accountability. And I'm going to stop doing it and make amends. With that said, I'm feeling hurt about how things are going. Can we talk about it? But instead she says, I'm going to take accountability. I talk in a way that maybe comes off two-faced and maybe makes you think a way about me, which is fair. But also, when have I ever been a bad friend? And it's like, or when have I ever hurt you in our relationship? Do you know what I'm saying?
Character is something we definitely need to talk about because you're the liar here.
Ooh, she said, you're the liar here.
She never mentioned flying down a male stripper. She never mentioned.
She said, there are things that I want to keep as a surprise. And you said, totally. How was it any different?
What she told me was lighthearted. What actually happened was disrespectful.
So a couple of things that I'm noticing is, first and foremost, it would have been nice if Jen, though she said she consented to the scenario, was more open and detailed about what she was consenting to. So maybe the girls could have given Jen more informed consent, though Demi did say, I'd like to keep some things a surprise, and Jen consented. I'm not a big surprise girly. I actually tell my partner all the time, I'm not really into surprises. I kind of feel like I'd rather just get informed consent, and I'd rather just know what's going on. So we're both kind of similar in that sense. So we don't do surprises in our marriage. And I think it's for situations kind of like this, where in one person's brain, they're thinking, hey, this is a safe area. Like Jessie was saying, this feels safe. It feels like you gave us consent. What did we do wrong? But now Jen and Zach are saying, well, this isn't what we meant. And so that's kind of why informed consent can help these kinds of situations. Just keep people informed so they know what they're really consenting to.
I wish you had asked me, because I would have never given you guys consent for Jordan and this random male stripper to be grinding up on me and touching me.
He's a performer. There's a difference.
Okay, I'm not going to get into the weeds about what's different between a stripper and a performer because both are valid. Both are great. But, okay, because a stripper is a performer, but like whatever, fine. Jen is saying she never would have consented. I don't actually know that. From the things we've seen of Jen, I feel like she might have even people pleased and said yes about that. But at some point, guys, even if you're a severe people pleaser, at some point, I mean, we can understand that, but you do have to be accountable for your people pleasing. And this is what my therapist told me. She said, even though you're the one who is borderline and you're the one who's been wounded as a child and you're the one who you still are responsible for what you do. And so what we realize along the way of being unhealed is, oh, I'm doing these things for a reason. And the reason is this. Okay, now we get better and we figure out our values and we make decisions. Prior to going to therapy, I really didn't solidify my values. I'm a late bloomer and I really thought I had values. I really thought I had principles, but until I went to therapy and really got it together and went on my philosophical journey, I really didn't have that. I think I was still figuring myself out, throwing everything against the wall, seeing what I really cared about. And I think that's normal. I think I'll continue to do that, right? I'll continue to have value shifts, or I'll have conversations about what I value. I'll have moments in my life where I maybe take on new values I didn't even think of, or maybe get rid of some values and incorporate them, or, shift them into a different perspective. The idea is like values aren't meant to be stagnant. They're meant to help you grow and stay stable and be a good person. So values aren't supposed to be black and white. They're supposed to help you navigate the hardships of life, because life is hard.
Being related to a celebrity, why? And you know that's gonna come out. So if you can lie about something like that, it makes me question your character. Your husband said, Jen made up this lie and I've been telling her to stop.
Zach said that Jen made up the lie and I've been telling her to stop. Oh, I'm not a therapist. But what does Jen have? Because that's something, right? It kind of reminds me of those moms that are kind of like narcissistic, where I hate to use that word, but you know, the moms that are always telling people like crazy exaggerated stories that are like in no way real. And you think like, oh my God, that's so interesting. But you realize none of it is real. Is that Jen?
We are not related to the Afflecks. I have told her to stop lying about it on podcasts.
All that's been told to me literally since the day that
you and Zach have a communication problem because he said,
oh, then you and Zach have a communication problem, because if Jen is now blaming Zach for her misinformation, then you got a whole setup that's the problem.
I don't know where Jen came up with this. I've been telling her to stop talking about it. It's a lie.
I was telling everyone what I'd been told the past 6 years, but also, what does this have to do with anything?
Oh, I've been telling everyone what I've been told for the last 6 years, but what does this have to do with anything? Everything. What does this have to do with anything? Do you remember? Oh my God. So, I have so much to say, but I remember when I started to call out, like, I'll call out YouTubers and say like, oh yeah, in their personal life, like they're cheating, they're bad parents, all this other stuff. And people are like, hey, what does that matter? What's happening in my personal life if I'm showing up to canvass for Democrats? Everything. These people literally think they get to separate things. You don't. It's all connected. You don't get to say, oh, well, I mistreat and cheat and abuse my partners and I violate people's consent, but at least I'm canvassing for the Democrats. At least I'm raising money for the liberals. Like, you don't get to do that. No, you don't. So that's the hypocrisy that Jen is explaining right now, where she's like, what does this have to do with anything? Everything, Jen. We're trying to make a case that you're a liar. So this story is kind of important. Did you lie about this story or not? And for Jen to be like, what does this have to do with anything? Everything. It has to do everything with it. It has to do with your character. Your character is in question. That's what's in question. Are you reliable? Are you safe? And for her to be like, what does this have to do with anything? Girl.
At this point, it feels like they're harping on anything to put me down when it feels like straight up bullying.
So Jen feels bullied now. Man, she is good at playing the victim.
You literally gaslight everyone saying that.
And now she's bringing out the G word. She's saying you are gaslighting everybody else. Jen is that narcissistic boyfriend you should break up with. That's who Jen is. Damn, I think that's her categorization. You guys tell me what you think. But it looks like it.
He didn't rub his dick on you. He had hands on. You are such a prude.
Okay, I know about your past.
What's my past?
Yes, I know about your past.
What's my past?
Ooh, now she's weaponizing her past. I know about your past. I know what you did in the past. Jen weaponizes people's mistakes against them in the future. Big tactic. Especially if traumatized people, like traumatized people, being traumatized doesn't make you a bad person. But if you don't have a sense of values and you're traumatized, you'll often lash out at people as a defense mechanism. And since you don't have values, you'll be ruthless with how you do it. But if you gain some values and you know you're sick, then when you want to lash out because you're triggered, you won't. Or if you do, you apologize right away, but you'll catch yourself. That's what DBT taught me, is that you do have this intuition to be defensive, but you'll teach yourself to slow down. And before lashing out, you'll be like, that hurt my feelings. And before I say something unnecessarily mean, I think we should talk about this when I'm in a better headspace. And like, that's the skill that DBT taught me. And I think that's like really important, and anyone can experience that. Even like, everybody's dysfunctional, guys. Everybody has mental health problems. And to some extent, a diagnosis doesn't mean, anything more than not having a diagnosis if you're having a pattern of behavior. It's not about getting a diagnosis. It's about realizing that you're not healthy. Regardless if you have a diagnosis or a label or personality disorder, you're being unhealthy. I think sometimes people weaponize the whole like, oh, well, you're mentally ill and I'm not, so you must be the problem. Nope. Everybody's the problem if you're being the problem. It doesn't matter, quote, if you're mentally ill or not. And I know this is somebody who has, autism or BPD. It's like, oh, they weaponize it. Oh, that's your autism. Oh, that's your BPD. It could be, but it also could just be like, you're being unhealthy. But I think sometimes people that's why people don't get a diagnosis, right? So they can say, oh, well, I'm the normal one. You're the one with the problem and I'm not. And it feels like especially if you have a Jen-like character in your life, it's really hard to feel safe because Jen is the person who weaponizes all of your past mistakes against you.
To me. If you're asking to swing with us, it's a no. And I'm done with this conversation.
What? Okay, but the question is, they ordered hot chocolates during this meeting. Is anyone going to drink their hot chocolate? Because it looked good.
There's no better time to tell you than I guess right now, since we're 5 minutes away. So Whitney called me. I guess she's been wanting to talk to you.
No. Okay, take me home.
Damn, they are so bad at consent. This whole episode is a consent episode after all. So Macy just surprised Michaela with a meeting with Whitney, which is a consent violation. She didn't have consent initially, didn't have informed consent. This is an example of no consent. You didn't give Michaela the right to consent to the situation. That's fucked up.
Really all started in Park City. I felt like I was being left out of the friend group. I was going through a lot in my chronic illness.
Oh, she said, my friends told me we were meeting up at 5. I showed up 2 hours early and saw this.
It's like she gaslit me and flipped it on me and made it seem like, oh, well, you're doing this to yourself or you're going through this.
Lately, I feel like mom talk is turning on each other left and right. It's really sad to see because I feel like we're supposed to be women supporting each other. We're taught in the church to love one another, to be Christ-like, and to be forgiving.
You cannot be healthy and violate consent. Now, I understand in a very debate bro way, we violate our children's consent when we send them, to bed on time and they don't want to go to bed. But realistic adult conversation happening right now, guys, you cannot have a healthy relationship with people when you don't give people the right amount of informed consent. And it is just a recipe for disaster. We can't be perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We have to learn. We're trained in society to basically be between no consent and consent, right? People make fun of you for asking, can I kiss you? That's like a joke. But it's really important to say, like, would you like to kiss right now? Or like, is kissing something you're open to? Or would you like to have sex? And then before we have sex, would you like to get STI tested so we can have an informed consent situation? Because if we have sex tonight and we don't get tested, it maybe somebody secretly knows they have something or they don't know at all. It's all about being honest and transparent. And I think Macy, to sit here and think, oh, let's be healthy, but then to put Michaela in a situation where she didn't get to consent to meeting up with Whitney, isn't this so humans gonna human? Isn't this what I'm saying about how messy people are? But I don't think they're like, I don't think they're like evil geniuses. I think they're literally lacking tools, living under patriarchy, internalized misogyny, having issues with communication, generational curses, all of the things that we have to work and deconstruct in order to even have a conversation about informed consent.
I don't have anything to say to her.
You can make it 2 minutes.
So Michaela says they're driving up. I have nothing to say to Whitney. And Macy's like, just make it 2 minutes. This is bad. I hate everything about this, and I think it's so inappropriate.
What we can do to move past this.
I don't care to have the friendship. I didn't want to have this conversation. Why did you want to have the conversation?
Because I want to move past this, Michaela.
So Michaela says, I don't want to have this friendship. I want to move past this conversation. And Whitney says, I want to move past this conversation so we can have a friendship. And I'm saying sometimes it's okay to end the friendship.
If you want
it's
to
kind of hard to move past it when every time I
group.
open the internet, somebody's making blatantly explicit videos about me.
Then don't look at my stuff. You're so delusional and you think that everyone's always coming for you.
I don't know if this is true though. Is Michaela making subtweets about Whitney or is she talking about someone else? Because sometimes I say things on stream and I'm talking about somebody totally different. And I do worry that other content creators are going to watch me and think I'm talking about them. Like sometimes I want to tell my story, but I don't want to bring other people into it. And it sucks because other people are our story. This is the difficult part. Other people are our story. And maybe that's why I like having my internet space away from my family and friends, because it feels like the internet is sort of like a space for me to be about my life and without it compromising like my friends and family. Because, I have a lot of relatives. They all have their real life jobs and their real life careers, and I have mine. But I think a lot of, public figures or celebrities or, I don't know, Mormon wives, we have a tendency to forget like our family also has a real life and they have the right to not be public figures. And I think sometimes we forget that because these people are so used to dragging people into their lives. Like YouTubers who are family vloggers. It's like, did your kids even get the right to consent to being content creators or content? And no, and I think that's messed up. Like if we ever had kids, they would not be on the internet. And I really respect those content creators that don't make their children content in any capacity, because I do think it's a red flag. So I think that's the dilemma here is like the friendship needs to end, but they need to be professional and work together And we need to figure out how to do that.
If I want to make videos about you, I can do that because you're not my friend.
You're exactly right.
Okay,
so you're not my friend, but you can blatantly harass me on the internet.
I'm not
That's
blatantly
okay.
harassing you on the
Then what
internet.
are you doing?
What
is it that you're doing?
Yeah, it's kind of petty, but it's, you know, it's Michaela's right to post content that works for her. It might not be the most healthy, but she's allowed to post it. And Winnie can be mad at it, but she doesn't have to work with Michaela. If it's bothering you this much, don't even work with Michaela. Don't be a part of Mom Talk. But Michaela, I don't know if Michaela is going to be proud of this content in 4 to 5 years, if this is exactly the content she's going to be happy she made, or if she feels like she has to make it because of where she is in her life.
Okay, I will be cordial to you in person when we're at group or.
Yeah, Whitney's pretty upset right now, but I think Whitney sometimes gives neurodivergent to me. Maybe that's why I have some level of like interest in her. Like she looks a little neurodivergent to me. So maybe she's confused about, and even the way Michaela explained the way that Whitney comes off differently, like I just saw a meme today that was making me laugh. Like, when you're both neurodivergent, you can't tell if you're having a casual conversation or if you're in a fight. And it's because the way we communicate as neurodivergents, we tend to be loud and emote. Like we emote a lot. Like the stereotype of an autistic person is that they're very monotone, but the monotone is, even in my mind, a part of what sets people off. I consider the uniqueness of neurodivergency to be the sort of extreme way of showing up, whether it's monotone or very expressive. Like for me, they're both. So you can be autistic ADHD that's like very hyper, or autistic ADHD that's actually very monotone. And all of it is ADHD or autism, right? All of it is because we're not having a monolithic experience. Like even the way I yell talk is so neurodivergent of me, and it really upsets some people. I wish I could come on stream and talk really slowly. I wish I could be a YouTuber. It's like, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. But I'm not that person. And because I'm not that person, sometimes people are like, oh my God, Brittany, you're so angry. And I'm like, not even angry. I'm like not even a little bit angry. And it can hurt my feelings because then you feel really like an alien and people can't see you. You're like, I'm not angry. And they're like, I don't believe you. And I understand as a person who calls people out, and I said, hey, I know you say you're not angry right now, but you kind of feel angry to me. That's why you have to be really good faith when you're having these conversations, and people have to be really good faith with themselves. I will tell you when I'm angry. I'm pretty good at saying like, oh yeah, I am angry, because I don't think it's a shameful thing to be angry. I think it's not shameful to be sad or shameful to be happy. I think anger is an emotion, and often it can be justified, especially when we're talking about injustice in the world. But I think sometimes people will see me get passionate about issues and they'll say, oh my God, you're so angry about this. It must be your trauma. You know what I mean? Like I have been angry on behalf of like sexual abuse victims, and people will say like, why are you taking this so personal? Is it because of your own story? And I'm like, why are you like, you can't even out here defend rape victims without people claiming you're like projecting your own trauma onto it. I'm allowed to be angry that people are assaulted. Like I'm allowed to be angry for people. And I think sometimes that comes off confusing, and I think people weaponize it against you. So Michaela is giving me icky vibes right now where it feels like she's weaponizing Whitney's real emotions against her. But to be fair, I really wish Whitney would just be honest about what she wants. I just feels like Whitney never knows what she really wants. Do you want to be friends with these people? Do you want to be coworkers? What do you want to do? Because right now it feels like Whitney wants to eat her cake and have it too, which to be fair, it feels like this whole group wants to eat their cake and eat it, or wants to eat their cake and have it too.
Work events. If it's a friendship thing,
so we'll be cordial in person, but we'll harass her online.
No one's harassing you again. Did you just hear what I said? No one's harassing you on the internet.
I feel like it's harassment.
This reminds me so much of YouTube drama, like our YouTube differences, right? Like if one person makes a video about a content creator, about the work they put out, is that harassment or is that you commenting on their work? I think it's harassment if you make up lies, slander them, if you don't have receipts in a certain level of capacity, not always, right? Because, you know, obviously we can't always have every receipt for every situation. Or 4 or 5 or 6, when you send your audience after people. I think that's the biggest issue. If your audience is harassing somebody you're talking about, then that's the issue. If you're not making it completely clear to your audience, no harassment, then I think that's the problem.
Feel like that? Then come to me and tell me.
That's what I'm doing right now.
You call Macy every single time and you put her in the middle yet again.
I asked her why she was in the video.
It is true that she did put Macy in the middle, and I think that was messed up. And I think the issue with it is that Macy is willing to be in the middle, and I think that's messed up. And that Macy was willing to violate Michaela's consent. The fact that Michaela isn't mad at Macy right now is a big part of the problem.
4:32. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving each other, just as God in Christ.
You can forgive people and remove them from your life. Forgive people for being human and remove them from your life. You can forgive and keep them involved because you really believe they've changed, or you can forgive and accept that people are going to people, but that doesn't mean you have to involve them back in your life, because you can forgive people that are unhealed. I have no enemies, no animosity against anyone. I have no like grudges against people, but that doesn't mean you can come back in my life, because having you back in my life is a danger to me and my safety, but like no hard feelings, because I just know you're a person on a journey. But just because you're a person on a journey doesn't mean I want to be involved in your journey.
A sisterhood that we've created that you removed yourself from, moving forward with like mom talk and that sisterhood there.
Okay, so this is so silly, but Macy and Michaela made a pact that Michaela would call Macy and have the phone on the table without Whitney knowing. So she could listen to the conversation, and when she heard the safe word, come in and save Michaela from the conversation. But Michaela muted herself, so Macy can't hear any of it. So Michaela just used the safe word, and it's useless because Macy can't hear it.
I'm 3 sisterhoods deep. Why is she not coming in?
You know what you could do is get up and walk away.
I just don't understand. And I hate that I don't understand, but I don't.
Autism. I'm telling you, something neurodivergent is happening, because I can feel this way, and I'm trying to put, I'm trying to humanize the situation by talking about myself as well, which is autistic of me. By the way, fun fact, usually neurodivergent people relate to other people's stories by sharing something about themselves, so they can say like, oh, I've been there too. So I'm being very autistic right now. I'm not trying to make this all about Brittany. I'm literally utilizing a very typical neurodivergent trait to say, oh, Whitney, I think I've been there too. Where like you really can't let it go because you really don't understand a social dynamic, and it really haunts you, and you just will like want it to get better, and you can't, because sometimes you can't. But also everyone's really unhealed, so of course they can't. So I feel like this is very neurodivergent of her.
I'm like, I think you're exhausted. I'm exhausted. There's really no other answers other than like, I feel like taking a good step back.
Okay, so Taylor and Dakota are talking now, and Taylor's telling Dakota that we're not getting better and we should take a step back. So let's see how he reacts. And by the way, like, they're really feeling things. Dakota's really feeling things. People who do really bad things, people who lie and cheat and abuse you, they're really feeling things. And that's why we make excuses for bad behavior. It's why we see the humanity in everyone. It's why we exist in the world that we do, because we can, if you're one of those people, you really can see the good in everybody. But when the good doesn't outweigh the bad, that's hard. That's a really big struggle. And that goes with any dynamic, friendship or relationship. And that's why I say, I know that it's hard for things to end, but sometimes the best thing for a friendship, a relationship, a work relationship is to end it. The best thing to do is to walk away from the life that you had into a new one. And that's okay, but it's really hard. Like, I don't think it ever gets really easy, but all of the time it's necessary if it's necessary. Like, I don't think things come to an end normally until it's necessary. And then at that point, it's almost always better for you because of the necessary part. Does that kind of make sense? It's different to end something that wasn't necessarily important to end. But when things get it to a point where, okay, you got to end this, always going to be better. Ending this dynamic will always be better.
For me, I don't want anything or anyone else.
I don't think nothing changes if nothing changes.
When Dakota says, I don't want anyone else but you and this family, well, again, we go back to wants and needs. You can want something, but unless you need it, unless it's a part of your joy, it's one of those things where if you really respected your dynamic with Taylor, you wouldn't have started off it wouldn't have been the way it was. If you really wanted a family, you would have prioritized your family. If you know what I mean, like, and I think the problem is that, it's kind of a privilege to think that you could grow up a perfectly decent person all of your life, because the people who are often very indecent are often very underprivileged. And I don't mean financially. It's why you can have kids in really privileged, like, financial positions whose parents aren't active in their life, and so they're neglected. So sometimes I think some of the worst, in quotations here, there are 2 types of bad people, right? The bad people that are like, I know better, but I'm going to do worse. And the people who are like, I know better, but I don't know how to do better. And those are often like people who, given the right tools, will do better. But there are people you can give every tool to, and they will never pick the right decision. And that's why I say it's one thing to say I'm neurodivergent, and if I just have the right pill or the right tool, I'll be better. And then there's a difference between no matter what kind of resource or intervention you have, you're never going to get better. And that comes down to introspection and choice. And so in this situation, it feels like Dakota and Taylor have all of the opportunity, and they can't seem to make it work together. And sometimes you just got to accept that.
I think it's just really hard because we both come from very broken places.
Ding, ding, ding. We both come from very broken places. It is hard. But I also don't want you to settle into a broken relationship because it feels familiar.
We've both hurt each other tremendously in many ways.
Every pain point Taylor has, I am someone that activates that for her. It's hard because I've never loved anyone more than I have Taylor.
Wow, what an interesting thing for him to say. Every pain point Taylor has, I activate it for her. Yeah, that's actually quite profound because, to be honest, I think that kind of coincides with this idea of dating someone you don't need to change. I think that was true in my relationships in the past. I think I was in relationships with people, and this is why I say, even if you're two really great people, you could be very incompatible because you bring out the worst in each other. You don't make each other better. This is the first relationship I've been in where genuinely we make each other better people. Dakota maybe is saying unknowingly or maybe knowingly is that no matter just him existing the way he is isn't good for Taylor, and Taylor just who she is isn't good. Like, they're not good together. It's really hard to look at somebody whose consciousness you love and to realize we're not good together. And I think this is how we feel with our parents. Sometimes I think you get to the point with your parents or siblings where you're like, or your best friends, I love you, but we're just not good for each other. And that's gotta be okay. And I know you're saying, and maybe this is what Whitney was trying to say, but why can't we be good for each other? You can't. No matter how much you try, you can't. And that is a part of radical acceptance. Radically accepting that no matter how much you try, you will never be healthy together. You will never have a good relationship with your parents. You will never have a good relationship with your best friend. That is a devastating realization, but I promise you, if you radically accept that you are a biological creature evolved over time, living out your life, you will recognize and be grateful for the good times you had and move on with your life so you can continue having good times with other people. Because realistically, like, things come to an end, whether it's through death or just natural change. And that's why I say I am so grateful for all of the people that I've ever met and any of the interactions I've ever had, because ultimately, like, I'm really happy with where I ended up. Also, I wish I could have avoided a lot of the pain and hurt, but hey, that's my story. What are you going to do? So I hope Taylor and Dakota can end this cycle so they can be better people, and then they can radically accept that this is the end of their time together. But they're not bad people for wanting to be with each other. But I think if you continue to be in a bad relationship, you're not doing a service to you or that other person.
Best thing I can do is give her space. And for me, my whole focus right now is to just be the best dad.
That's the part that makes this so hard. Ugh.
I mean, it's part of co-parenting. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've never experienced it though.
Pause. They're saying their co-parenting situation is she's saying I'll keep the baby at nights, and he's saying, but I've never experienced it. No, he has to experience tucking his kid in at night. You're denying him an opportunity to learn and get through this. And now let's pause for a second. People will say, if you're a bad partner, can you be a good parent? Yes. Not always and not often, but sometimes. So I'd like to believe that Dakota isn't so toxic that just because he was malicious and I think what I would call abusive to Taylor, maybe that's too hard of a word for some people, but it was lying and deceiving and cheating is bad, guys. But doesn't mean he can't be a good father, right? He won't be the best or healthiest father, but he'll be good enough. And right now, if it was up to Brittany, most people wouldn't be parents because y'all are not healed enough. I said what I said. But since everyone's going to have a baby anyways, let's make the best of it, right? I think he deserves to experience tucking his kid at night. I think Taylor deserves to have a night off. I think a different co-parenting schedule would be better.
It's really hard to imagine a life without Dakota. It'd be another loss for me.
It feels like Dakota is often the partner who's like in his feelings, and Taylor is often the person who's denying herself her feelings. I don't know if you guys do this, but sometimes when my friends are really distraught, I naturally go into a very like matter-of-fact, stoic kind of presentation. I'm overly emotional, like maybe my partner will do it, and over emotional is not bad. It just means you're very activated. Or when my sister came to Croatia, all of a sudden I was like a professional at taking the bus. I was like, I can do this. But when my partner's there and I know they know how to do it better, I kind of like rely on them and like, I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I think when one person is being kind of like, I know what I'm doing, it gives you a chance to kind of relax. And I think sometimes Dakota is so in his feelings, it doesn't give Taylor a chance to be in hers. But then when Taylor's in her feelings, he also becomes cold. And instead of becoming cold I would love them to both be warm, but it's hard to be warm without mistaking it for wanting to be together. So we have to learn to be warm to people without them interpreting it as I want to be in your life, or I want to be your partner, or I want to be your best friend. It's like, no, I'm just showing you kindness. And as a person, this is such an autistic this is so autistic. So many people have this experience because we tend to be very empathetic and overly kind to people, you know, depending on the autistic experience. People will mistake our kindness for intimacy, or like, oh, you want to be with me? And it's like, I'm just trying to treat you with kindness. And sometimes I do notice in the world that sometimes the world struggles to be kind because we're so unhealed that we become inappropriate with our desires and wants towards people that are nice to us because we're so not used to it. And it's just like the cycle of toxicity. And that's why I say too much of the world is suffering for me not to be convinced that most of us are born into toxic families and dysfunctional relationships with people. And it's just simply on a spectrum. And there's really no such thing as like a born healed person. Like in a sense, like even if your parents are healed and they have you, they're going to fuck up as parents because like they're people and they're going to make mistakes, and you're a person and you're going to go through your own issues. And it just feels like really even silly that we kind of believe in like a perfect person. But also I think it's necessary to make sure you're over that hump from unhealthy to healthy, at least bare minimum. Bare minimum, we want to get to healthy, even if it's baby healthy, like at the very beginning steps. Because as long as we're in the unhealthy cycles, we'll never even have a chance to break it, right?
I mean, I know Miranda's coming because we just talked.
I don't know if Layla's good with me. She was the one who wrote the note saying that I was fake or something.
How did you find that out?
Macy told me that.
Oh, shoot. Macy told Jen that Layla was the one who wrote the note, and that makes a lot of sense. Also kind of sad. And Whitney's husband, Jordan, no, wrong person. Jordan is Jesse's husband. I don't remember his name right now. I'm sorry. But Whitney's husband just got a vasectomy. So they're officially done having kids.
I want to welcome you, though, officially to Whitney's baby shower.
So imagine you're having a very private family event, family, friends, coworkers, and then you tell them, hey, we're going to be on Netflix and we're going to be on TV, or Disney or whatever this is. Like, we're going to be on TV and it's going to be on forever. Like, none of my family and friends or people would probably want to be a part of that because their real lives are just so opposite of being on TV that it wouldn't make sense for their jobs or their reputations or who they are or just simple privacy to want to do this. So the fact that Whitney's family is participating, that the people in this room exist, I'm sure there's lots of people who didn't show up because it was on camera. But that's just so different from my lived experience. Like, I don't bring my family to work, but see how work for them is like intimate family events. Like, I just want to hang out with my family. Like, I just don't want cameras there. And I guess that's the idea, is that I could never be a Kardashian because like I could never do that. But some people want to be Kardashians. Couldn't be me. I mean, know who you are in the story. And I just don't think it's healthy. I don't think I value being healthy over any amount of fame or money.
This many people who have had lies. It's not an isolated situation. It's like, no, this lie, this lie, this lie.
So while Whitney's having her baby thing, they're having a hibachi night.
At what point are you just not gonna look like a liar?
They're so outlandish, the lies, and they're so specific too. It's so weird.
Jen said that Jordan had his tiny dick all over her. So where's this hostility coming from?
If I'm gonna be honest, I think she was triggered. So she said the most hurtful thing she could think about. That doesn't excuse her bad behavior, and it certainly doesn't excuse the lying. But I think the tiny dick comment was triggered. Like, she was triggered, she was activated, and she went for the thing she thought would be the most insulting, which is why I actually try not to practice body shaming in any capacity when insulting people. I prefer to insult you because of your bad decisions, but I don't think what your genitals look like indicates badness, right? But that's such a typical, your dick's small, like insult, because they think it hurts people, and we shouldn't be attacking people because of what they look like.
I did have a situation in a past relationship, and it did involve swinging, but that was way in my past.
See, so Jessie told Jen years and years and years ago, she did have a situation with another person where swinging might have been an option, and Jen weaponized it. See, Jen weaponizes private information, which is different than finally sharing something someone told you in privacy because you feel like, hey, it's bad enough that people should know about it because, oh my gosh, versus like being a swinger is not that bad, but in the Mormon bubble might be. But see how Jen kept it in her arsenal until she could weaponize it, versus her saying like, I'm not sure if I should come out with this, I'm anxious. Like, these are two different things. And I think people sometimes mistake one for the other. They'll say like, well, she told you this in confidence, you shouldn't share it. But the truth is like, you can't tell somebody in confidence you murdered somebody and no one's going to share it. But maybe you tell somebody in confidence you cheated, and then you take the time to see if they're going to recover or get better or go to therapy, because sometimes people cheat. People have certainly told me in confidence that they've cheated, and I haven't told anybody. But then some other people tell me that eventually you got to come out with it because the cheating is connected to other bad things and it's a show of their character.
So you asked her about the confession that Macy got with her and Brett?
Wait, what?
Oh, so the girls are talking. They're rehashing a bunch of stuff we already know. And then Taylor doesn't realize Macy hasn't told any of the other girls about the Brett and Demi confession. And this is such a bad group to tell. Oh no. See, this was a good example of something don't tell the whole group. See, Macy decided to share with Taylor and didn't tell Taylor not to tell anybody. So Taylor brought it up, look at Macy's face. Oh no.
I know if Macy told you she got a confession about Demi.
Ooh, but see, Jen's not a safe person to say anything to because she'll weaponize it. And also it's coming from the internet. We don't know if it's true. Just because it was true with Dakota and Taylor doesn't mean it's true with them.
Asking me for truth. Let's talk about you and your husband.
But what if Demi doesn't know? Do you know what I mean? Like you're acting like Demi knows. What if she doesn't know Brett cheated? Like what if you guys are just mocking a woman who's literally thinking she's in a great, perfect relationship? Like that's the toxicity of it. You're acting like Demi would know.
Because it's like, if people are digging and messing with her relationship, she has every right to have a backbone and fight back.
Taylor's not in the loop, so Taylor has no idea what's happening. So the girls are trying to inform her. But Taylor doesn't understand that Jen has been lying and has been malicious. So Taylor is thinking, oh, Jen's just defending herself. But see how that's not happening? See how in situations, behavior can be one of two things. It can be totally innocent or totally not. And that's why you have to get to the actual root of the thing. You have to actually discern, okay, am I dealing with somebody that's authentically defending herself or somebody that's weaponizing this information to look like she's defending herself, but she's actually attacking? This is why it's hard. Life is hard because we don't know what we're always seeing. And we often see the wrong thing because we don't have the tools to see something. It's like a conservative who thinks being trans is like automatically bad because you're trans, but we know that's not true. Or sleeping with somebody before marriage is always bad. Like we know that's not true, but you will think that's true until you know better because you were raised a certain way or with a certain belief system, right? Versus somebody who is actually being malicious and tempting somebody to sleep with them before they're married as a way to like violate their belief systems. Like that's bad, but it's not sex before marriage that's bad. It's tempting somebody away from their values in order to use and abuse them. That's bad, right?
I'm so dreading the minute Jen tries to come at us with the grenades. I know she's gonna do it. She's gonna come at you for the fake thing. Let her.
I have nothing to hide. I will make her look like such a fool.
See, they're so aggressive and it's so catty games. I get it. I've been toxic. I thought like maybe this was a way to defend myself. You want to like fight back. I struggle with this immensely as a public figure when there's like issues between me and other YouTubers. Like I never know the right way to stand up for myself, but I'm trying. And even if I'm messy at it sometimes, I just don't want to be this. Like, I just don't want to be this. I don't want to be negative. I don't want it to be ugly. I just want it to be like matter of fact. And I want the truth to be the truth. Because I think if the truth is on your side, the truth is on your side. But I don't know why you have to be ugly about the way you express that truth. Except that you're traumatized and we've all been there. And so we get catty and so we get like a little sassy and I get it. Okay.
Between all the different opinions and people taking sides, I just can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath. I am absolutely packing extra super tampons.
She's disgusting. I don't want to be associated with her. I'm like, you have no idea what's coming for you.
Okay, that whole episode was just the girls switching between scenes for the cameras, going like, I'm gonna totally dominate and get back at that person and da 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 da. It feels toxic. I feel like this whole season's been exhausting. I feel like it's taking me so long to get through everything. Talk about emotional labor. Let me know what you guys think in the comment sections down below, and I'll see you for the next episode. Bye-bye.